Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thinking Like a Bank, where we show you how to think like a bank using the same strategies and principles that banks use to help you find more financial freedom in your life. I'm your host, Sari Ibrahim. So some of the core principles we've talked about of thinking like a bank include investing or owning real estate, having safe and predictable income, saving on taxes or lowering your tax liability. And I wanted to talk about today's episode specifically on passively investing in real estate and how to do that. And I have with us today a special guest. Her name is Alina Trigub. Alina is the founder and managing partner of Samo Financial. It's a boutique private equity firm specializing in helping busy professionals and IT professionals passively invest in commercial real estate. Alina's business model has been articulated well by Warren Buffett's quote, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." Her passion is to teach others how to build wealth by investing passively in real estate. Alina, welcome to the show.
Sarah, thank you so much for that warm introduction and I appreciate you having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, me too. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I know you've done a lot of videos. You're really busy, so I really appreciate making the time for this episode.
It's my pleasure to help you and your listeners in any way I can.
Yeah, thank you. Before we jump into passively investing in real estate and like the moving parts behind it, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got involved in real estate?
Absolutely. I started my journey in the United States as an immigrant. So I came from what used to be former Soviet Union many moons ago. And when we came here as for immigrants, I came with my mom. I wanted to find a profession that would give me income, and after searching, it's been stereotyped that if you're good with numbers, you're gonna be good with accounting and you'll like it. So that's what I've been told, and I went into accounting, figured that since I like numbers, I'm good with numbers, that's going to work out well. Well, after learning accounting and realizing I don't really like it, I figured I'll give a try that profession because, it's a well-paid profession. The profession was very well paid, but I still didn't like it. So after trying tax accounting for some time and realizing it wasn't for me, I left the field, went into the world of information technology, which I really enjoyed, and I stayed in that world for over 20 years. And their roles have evolved and they've been different, but they mainly have been around connecting the two worlds, the world of business and the world of technology. So I was that liaison that was connecting, helping the two worlds speak. And while doing that, obviously my career was progressing, my husband's career was progressing, and so were taxes. And I kept thinking that I need to find a way to lower the taxes because they're just way too high. I can't lower the tax bracket, but I can lower the tax implications if I find ways to legit ways to lower them. And that's how real estate kept coming up, and I finally decided that I needed to take action. I have to start investing in real estate. And after doing the additional research, I decided to start investing in syndications as a passive investor. And that's how I started my journey almost 8 years ago. And after doing that for a number of years and realizing the tremendous benefits of passively investing, not only was completely passive, I was also able to lower my tax liability for those investments. And on top of it, we were buying projects and investing in projects that were repositioned to clean them up and provide a better housing for folks that want to live in a affordable, clean housing and call it your home. And so that social aspect was beneficial as well, and I really enjoyed all those benefits. And after talking to my surrounding, my community, co-workers, friends, I realized that very few, almost none of the folks have ever heard the word syndication. So I decided that I need to bring it up to market. I need to help other people follow my footsteps and build their wealth by passively investing in real estate and really diversify out of Wall Street, because as a W-2 employee, you have 401k, you probably have some IRA or maybe a regular brokerage account, and everything is in Wall Street. Now you could not only invest outside of Wall Street, but you could also self-direct some of your IRA money, take them and put them outside of Wall Street in real estate directly. It's not some sort of REIT. It's not like a real estate investment trust where you're putting money through a mutual fund into real estate. No, this is putting money directly into physical real estate, which was amazing with all its benefit. And that's how Samo Financial was born a little over 3 years ago. We are still growing and operating and helping lots of people build their wealth by partnering with us. So that's my story.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I have so many questions. So
Sure.
can you explain to the audience, just for the context, what's the difference between actively investing in real estate and passively investing in real estate?
Absolutely. Excellent question, Sari. So when you actively invest, essentially you build a business. There are many forms of it. You can be a flipper, you can buy notes, you can buy and hold single families, multifamily condos, and so forth. But essentially you're building and growing your business, you're actively involved in it, and you need a lot of time and effort to put into it, because guess what? If you own a house and something breaks, who the tenants are going to call? They're going to call you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have a property manager, at the end of the day, if it's a large decision, let's say boiler broken, they're going to still call you because it's a big investment. So they need your approval to buy a new one.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to syndications, if someone is investing as an equity partner, that investing is completely passive. Granted, there is a learning curve up front. You need to learn what is syndication, how it works, who to invest with, what to invest with, and you do that all work up front. But then all it comes down to is reviewing the investment and deciding, do I want to invest in it or not? At that point, once you invest it, your work is completely done. So there's nothing else. And that's why the return on your time becomes exponential, because you're not actively involved in that business. It's completely passive for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And if your time, for example, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an architect, you're probably a high paid W-2 employee, and you probably lose time and money by trying to do everything on your own. So by passively investing, you could just pretty much move your money from your bank or your income to the fund, and this way you don't have to do any work. You're a limited partner. Granted, like you said, there's a learning curve, but pretty
Yeah.
much you're not trading time for money. You're just moving money from point A to point B and hopefully growing it. And of course, as you mentioned, outside of Wall Street, which we are fans of, what we do is we try to not try to move clients from Wall Street, but we just show them that there's better ways to grow wealth outside of Wall Street. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense, absolutely. And there are plenty of ways, and all it comes down to is educating yourself and taking action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Can anybody invest in a fund passively, or are there certain requirements they have to meet?
Great question, Sarah. There are certain requirements that people have to meet. The industry is regulated by SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. And one of the main requirements is for most of the projects is to be an accredited investor. And while some projects may take people that are non-accredited, all of our projects require folks to be accredited. And let me know if you would like me to give a definition of what accredited investor means.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Sure. So an accredited investor is someone who is single, has been making at least 200,000 for the last 2 years, and reasonably believe they'll continue to make it 200,000 or more in the current year. If they're married, the number jumps to 300,000, same for the last 2 years, and reasonably believe they'll continue doing that this year. The alternative to qualify is by your net worth, and your net worth must be at least $1 million excluding your home. So if you have 401k account, if you have other pension accounts, brokerage accounts, if you have a yacht or an airplane, that's your asset, so you can include that. You just can't include your primary residence, and that all counts towards your net worth. There is a new option that you can qualify by that was added by SEC in the late part of 2020, but very few people qualify by that. You have to have certain accreditation, and it's mainly applies to Series 67, Series 6. I don't remember all of the accreditations, but it's essentially someone who is active in the investment industry space can be qualified by having that specific accreditation, and the list can be found on SEC website.
Okay. And the last piece you mentioned, that pertains to like financial education, right? So the SEC wants to make sure that investors are financially competent. If
Correct.
they have the Series 6, 63, 7, other
Yep.
forms of licensing. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That they are, while sophisticated, while they may not meet the income or net worth requirement, they're sophisticated enough to understand how investment works, and that's why they would be allowed to invest.
Okay. How about international investors? Could they invest in a fund with you if they're internationally?
Yes, they don't have to qualify as accredited investors, but they, in addition to everyone else, we don't segregate,
Hmm.
international versus US-based investors. But international investors would also have to go through verification channels to make sure that what they're investing is, clean, legit funds, essentially, that can be invested. What we want to make sure is that um, they have ways to take care of their own tax payments for the investment in the US. And that typically comes down to having a US based company with US based account. And that helps a lot because then we know that this specific company will be responsible. If the company invests with them, then this company will be responsible for paying their own taxes.
Okay. What's your primary niche at Samo Financial? What type of deals do you invest in mostly?
Good question. So in the past, we've been working mainly on individual asset projects. Lately, we have gradually switched to working on fund-of-fund structure. And what it essentially entails is we build the product and we cater that product based on to the investor needs. I'll give you an example. For instance, let's say we have a growth fund. What it entails is that if you invest with us today, then down the line, 5 to 7 years, we expect your funds to multiply to a certain degree, and that's why it's called growth, because you delay gratification to a later time, but then by forcing appreciation in all of the projects within that fund, we are estimating that your investment will multiply by a certain percentage if you wait 5 to 7 years. It doesn't mean that we don't pay dividends, it's just the dividends probably smaller than in a different type of product, which could be an income product, which starts paying dividends immediately, and these dividends are much higher, but the expectation is that you use this money for your day-to-day stuff and you're not looking for the growth, or the income is more important to you than having that growth down the road. So that's the difference. And mainly the idea is to create a product that will benefit specific type of the investor. So fund of funds, so blind funds as people also call it, but then it's our choice. We pick and choose as to which project we invest in. And typically these are the projects that are not available to the day-to-day folks at an individual level, either because they are found through our long-term relationship, or in addition to that, they may have much higher entry points, million, 5 million, and so forth. So, many people would not be able to afford or not be able to decide not to invest this much money. And we allow them to partner with us and invest with us by having not only access to all these deals, but also immediate diversification across all of these projects at the same time.
Okay, interesting. If for example somebody has like $200,000 in an IRA and they
Sure.
want to start, it's a traditional IRA, but they want to start investing passively in real estate, what could they do? What are some ideas that they could do to kind of invest passively using their IRA, their current IRA?
Sure. So again, it would depend on their goals. Let's say it's someone near the retirement age and they want the immediate income. For them, investing in a product like we have an opportunity fund would be good for them, because that fund provides much higher dividends, and the dividends start at the very beginning from quarter 1.
Mhm.
So they'll generate that income, and it has little to no debt, which also means because that they will not generate the so-called UBIT, which is unrelated business income tax, which many self-directed investors are familiar with. The tax typically is triggered by the leverage of the investment. Most of the projects in that category have little to no leverage, which means that the UBIT, the unrelated business income tax, on UBTI, unrelated business income, taxable income, is going to be much, much lower, almost non-existent. So that's going to benefit them immediately because the income is there and the tax implications are very, very minimal. So that's perfect for them. And, you know, on the other hand, let's say it's someone who has a long way to go. They're in the middle of their career. They W-2 professional, but they still have 15 to 20 years to go, don't need the money immediately, investing because they want to multiply their wealth down the road. Well, probably a fund like Growth Fund makes more sense for them because they don't need to look for that income every single quarter, but they want to see their investment multiply substantially down the road. And that's what Growth Fund provides. Does this help?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. What about solo 401ks? Can you please share some information on that, on solo 401ks and pertaining to passively investing in real estate?
Sure. And by the way, the reason I know this because I've personally opened self-directed IRA with custodian, checkbook IRA, and then solo 401k, some for myself, some for my husband. So I went through all of it, and I've been sharing this information with my clients and friends as well. When I'm speaking from personal experience, essentially. So I have solo 401k because I'm a business owner with no direct employees. That's one of the prereqs for solo 401k. One of the greatest benefits, it is not impacted by UBIT. So essentially there's no UBIT impact here. And that's why it doesn't matter whether you invest in a project with leverage or without leverage, because there will be no UBIT implications in this case. And again, a lot depends on your goals. If you are somewhere in the middle of your business life, whether you're a business owner or W-2 professional, if you still have 15, 20 or 30 years to go, obviously growth should be more important to you than anything else. So you would probably choose a fund like a growth fund that gives you diversification, lots of leverage, a lot of different investments and so forth. If on the other hand, you are, let's say you're a nomad technologist, someone who doesn't have a permanent home, but you are traveling from place to place, where what you need is access to income. And that's not necessarily for solo 401k, but that's just in general for having access to income. Then for you, something like our opportunity fund would be a better option because again, it provides larger dividends, and it provides dividends from the first quarter. So that gives you that immediate passive income that you need in order to be able to travel and continue your digital nomad life.
Okay, nice. And just for the audience to know, they could also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alina, they could also use like if they have cash value whole life insurance, like let's say for example they have $100,000, they could leverage that, borrow against that to invest passively, and a lot of our clients do that since that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. If they have life insurance, people also leverage that. So that's another way to source your money. So you can take that when that matures enough. I don't know if I'm using the right term, but when the money mature, you can take that money and invest. And by the way, in terms of investing, at least when it comes to our product, the source of money doesn't have to be a single source. Let's hypothetically say you have 50,000 in your matured life insurance, 50,000 in your solo 401k, and 25 cash. You can lump it all together and call it 125k investment. That could be your investment. It doesn't matter what the sources are, as long as they all belong to you as an individual. So that's completely allowed in our case.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So, just to kind of put it out there, like this, to disclose that there's a lot of, and we have the same mutual connections on LinkedIn. There's a lot of real estate investors, general partners, and not to kind of name a few, but what are some things that people should look out for, and what kind of makes Samo Financial stand out from the rest?
Sure, I can share from personal experience. When I was starting out as a passive investor, the first thing that I would check would be the sponsor themselves. To me, The track record is important, but outside of the track record, person as an individual is also important. I want to make sure that this is someone trustworthy. It's someone whose goals, interests, business goals and interests are aligned with mine, and someone who I'm comfortable speaking with, someone who easily and freely gives the answers to my questions. If I see that there's a mismatch in, let's say, personalities, or it's hard to get the information, or I'm not able to follow that person, then if for me it's potentially a red flag that maybe I should give this person another chance. But ideally, I want to go with someone who I'm able to build a rapport with. I'm able to understand and agree with their overall strategy, their plans for their company and for their investment. So to me, that's step number one. In terms of what makes Samo stand out, so number one, one of the questions that I ask my new investors is, do you have a rainy day fund set up? And if the answer is no, then I tell them that unfortunately we cannot work with them. So once I know they're accredited, the next question I ask is about the rainy day funds. If they don't have the funds set up, I ask them to set that up, keep this money aside, and then come back to us. Because one of the things to know about syndication investing, it's not as liquid as Wall Street, because once you put the money in the investment, consider it to be in that investment for wherever the underwriting indicates. It could be 7 or 10 or longer years. And by the way, underwriting is just the estimate. So it may say 7 years, but the project may last for 9 or 10 years. So it may last for 2 or 3 years. So you can't hold the operator responsible to that term. All the operator is doing is giving you an estimate. We are planning to hold that investment for approximately this time, but they will try to sell when it makes sense to sell financially for everyone, for the investors and for themselves, because they want everyone to make a profit and be happy. So for us, it's asking that question, and it's also about sharing with investors what we do and how we do it. And if they want to partner up with us, we're open to that. But there is no sales pitches involved. We don't need to pitch anything. We just share how we do it, and then we educate our audience on what we do and how we do it. And you've probably seen some of the videos I've posted on LinkedIn, helping investors get acclimated with syndication process as a whole in general. So that's another thing that we do. We share what we know by posting articles, animated videos, and then responding to other people's questions, and creating the content that is essentially catered to share the knowledge about the whole passive real estate investing world.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned something that resonated. It was the personality or the person you're dealing with. That's probably the most important piece, right? Is the person. Yes. It also reminds me of venture capitalists and angel investors. When they're dealing with people, they can have the greatest idea, but if they don't like that person, they probably won't do business with them, So it's the personality that matters most. And I think in business in general, it's definitely the person, people to people skills for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important to build that rapport, and it helps to understand each other better, and it helps you to trust that person. But because if there is no trust, you can't really invest with them. I tell everyone that if there is no trust, or if you don't think this is the right project for you to invest in, then don't. There will always be another project. Don't move forward with it.
Yeah, there's no need for the scarcity. There's no need for the urgency or the scarcity mindset.
Yeah, absolutely agreed on that.
Thank you. Now, as we're kind of winding down now, I appreciate all the information you've shared. So this is kind of to get to know you better. What are some of your favorite books or some book recommendations you have?
One of my favorite books is, it's an older book, it's over 100 years old. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Crimson, I believe his name is. And you're going to pull it out right now? Yes. Oh, I love that book. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It teaches the fundamental concept that every single person should follow, regardless whether they're in real estate, not in real estate. But if you want to know the investment fundamentals, if you want to grow your wealth, then read that book. I guarantee you will enjoy it. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, the book is definitely an eye opener. It talks about things that are kind of like unconventional, like always growing your income, always increasing it, and that's also changed my perspective too. Because when you think of wealth, you just think of like your bank account and how high it is or how much it is, but you need to also think about cash flow, income coming
Right.
in, and that's an important piece that the book talks about too.
For sure. Another important concept covered in the book is, many people think that, oh, I have a mortgage in my house, I have to pay it off. The book says, pay yourself first.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because there is a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Mm-hmm.
And the debt on your home is actually a good debt. Why? Because that interest that's generated is deductible on your tax return. So take advantage of that deduction and use the money to invest, to buy life insurance, and then reinvest that life insurance into syndication. So use the money smartly. By doing that, you're paying yourself first, not just once, but multiple times. You have the life insurance, and then you have investment on top of it, and you're getting tax deduction from that interest income. So take that to your advantage. And if you're not sure how it works, always reach out to professionals. There are tax specialists, there are infinite banking specialists, and I believe you're in the field. And there are also sponsors and syndications that are professionals that have been doing it for a long time. So reach out to them.
Love it. Thank you. And how can listeners get a hold of you?
They can find me through my website, which is samofinancial.com, or on LinkedIn, or now on Clubhouse, which is becoming more and more trendy these days. But I do spend a lot more time on LinkedIn. I believe it's one of the best professional networks, and I contribute a lot to LinkedIn through posts and videos as well. So definitely easy to find me there.
Yeah, I agree. LinkedIn is nice. It's like a resume for everybody. It's very interactive, very professional. It's my favorite form of social media. It's the most professional use, of course, of social media.
Same here, Sari. Yeah. Same here. That's how we met, right? We met on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And I look forward to staying connected with you and hopefully doing another episode in the future with you.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Likewise, I enjoy being connected to you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Alina.
My pleasure.
To learn more about what we do and how we can help you grow more wealth, please visit www.finassetprotection.com. That's FIN, assetprotection.com. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.